Holy fucking shit, I think I'm scaring myself with the sound of my own voice. I know it's been way too fucking long. You know, a lot of other people make commentaries on here about professional wrestling. They've got subscribers, they've got people that always comment on their shit. That's cool, that's fine. You guys can be, the most emotional and the most hardcore of wrestling fans and always have your mouths open and always have an opinion. I'll never discredit anybody for putting it out there the way that they see it, and I'll never discredit anybody else for having an opinion. Here's the thing that's really pissing me off. Call me a mark, call me a biased fan, whatever. Call me one of those people that's just really trying to be cool and, proliferate his own agenda for professional wrestling, but I haven't said shit the past couple of months. I haven't said a damn thing. I have kept my mouth shut. I haven't made one of these little audio-video things. But now I'm gonna. And the reason I'm gonna is because I am pissed off as a professional wrestling fan. No, not in the way that I'm never gonna fucking watch it again. And no, not in the way that, I'd sit there and watch Raw day in and day out and subscribe to the WWE network. I don't give a fuck about any of that stuff. What I do care about is that even though I'm not currently watching WWE, they are making just the most ridiculous mistakes with this WrestleMania. This is WrestleMania 30. It's not in the Madison Square Garden. It's got nothing that feels like this is going to be a special WrestleMania. And this is such a big WrestleMania because this is something that could have pulled me back in. But it's not gonna. And I hate to say it, but I think that TNA Lockdown is going to be a better pay-per-view than WrestleMania 30. Here we go, fanboys unite. Fucking keyboard warriors, gear up and get ready to bash the shit out of this. And you know what? You can have your opinions. You can flame me all day. It's not going to bother me. Here's what I'm looking at, and this is why I don't understand why people will bash the fuck out of TNA forever and a day, when first of all, one, they probably don't even watch it, two, they think it's a cool thing to do, and three, they'll defend this WrestleMania suckfest, WWE-style card and booking to death. But we're going to take a fucking look at this, okay? And we're going to look at this from the perspective of a fan of wrestling for, I don't know, fucking like 27 years now? I don't know, ever since I could, look at the TV point and go, Macho Man, elbow, elbow. Man, you want to talk about the golden era not measuring up to today? Go fuck yourself. That was the most over era, the most just prime time to be a wrestling fan, was when it was huge. Dare I say that the golden era was better than the attitude era before all you younger people start jumping on me and want to put me through a flaming table. But we're talking right now about WrestleMania 30, something that should have had the build from the start to be this most epic fucking WrestleMania of all time. And I hate to say that I told you so, but remember when they had that whole John Cena versus The Rock shit in the works, and it was for an entire year, and at least, you were so nauseated at the idea of it, but you still felt like it was going to be a big WrestleMania, not only because it had The Rock, who is one of the biggest stars of all time and a huge draw, but because they were putting their boy John Cena in it, and, it just felt like a big deal. And they always talked about how it was going to be a big match and this, that, the other thing, but they advertised their draw, what their main event was going to be, and they advertised it a long time out. And they didn't wait for the Royal Rumble to put it together. And you could clearly see where it was going. And now this year they're going to traipse Randy Orton versus Batista out there like it's supposed to be some epic confrontation. I mean, you can call it like it is, and you can have your own opinion about it. And You can debate for days whether or not it's best for business, or who's really in the fucking business because they love it and who's in the business because it's a payday. To me, that doesn't even matter. That's a joke of a main event to me. Batista's been gone how long? All of a sudden he's in a world title match? He just had to show up for the Royal Rumble, come out to the ring, and they just hand it to him? No, I didn't watch it, and I didn't care to. That, to me, that's not wrestling. And that, how can you justify that? You know what I mean? That's going to be your main event. That's going to, well, it might not even be your main event. That might even be like one of your fucking opening matches, because it's such a fucking... Ugh. Let's not even get into that right now, because we're only 6 minutes in, and if I have to throw up in the middle of this audio, I wanted to make it, you know, worthwhile for you guys that I at least gave you something to listen to beforehand. I'm looking at the card for Lockdown 2014. Lockdown, of course, being one of the most fun pay-per-views that TNA puts on in the year. Lockdown feeling like a big-time fucking pay-per-view. And here's why. Lethal Lockdown is for control of TNA. And yes, it's a corny storyline. And yes, it's done to death. But you know what it does? It gets Dixie Carter off the TV for, like, you know, since she's been the main fucking attraction going on. And Dixie Carter is essentially the badass authority figure that's an abuse of power. And now she's got to deal with MVP, who's an investor. And if you little WWE nut huggers ever liked when Ric Flair came in and Eric Bischoff came in to fucking challenge McMahon and told him straight up, you know, we're going to make sure that we treat this TV show like, you know, it's what the fans want and everything else, then why wouldn't you like this? It's the same type of fucking storyline. This is the same type of storyline where it was Austin and McMahon all those years. Yes, it's not to that degree or caliber, but it's the same type of storyline. And MVP, despite what you may or may not think, loves the wrestling business, has a place in this storyline as the investor, and can wrestle. MVP has been touring the independent scene. He's been big in Japan for years now, after he stopped ballin' in the WWE. WWE didn't want to make a fucking big star out of him. They didn't care to. And you know what's going to be different about that is TNA is going to take everything that, you know, he was able to accomplish while he was building himself up in WWE, capitalize on the just popularity that he's had in the independents, and the fact that he's a workhorse. And if you haven't seen the latest House of Hardcore, then you wouldn't know that. And you wouldn't be entitled to have an opinion one way or another, because you wouldn't be informed. But I'm not going to take that away from your ability to sit there and bitch, and sit there and hide behind the keyboard and, you know, essentially tell everybody else in the world what to think. That's fine. You do what you want to do. Anyway, we're talking about Lethal Lockdown for control of TNA. Oh, it's amazing. But really, think about this. You've got Bobby Roode, who now is being offered a hand in the company. That's a pretty big step. You know, Bobby Roode's been upset enough to the point where he's wanted to, you know, kayfabe quit wrestling. And that should strike a nerve with people, because Bobby Roode is a TNA original. Bobby Roode is the longest reigning TNA champion. Yeah, that should mean something to you guys. Maybe not you guys that consistently just come on here and shit on TNA for the fact that it's shitting on TNA, but, you know, Bobby Roode helped carry that company. Bobby Roode was the main event, and Bobby Roode is treated as such. Austin Aries is on that team. You tell me that Austin Aries isn't just as fucking every bit as good as the CM Punks and the Daniel Bryans of the world, who, by the way, he has fought against lots and lots of times back there in that whole Ring of Honor thing that you guys want to talk about and justify as the reason that the other two are over, or the other two are great. But you don't want to give Austin Aries the time of day because he's in TNA. And it's just not fair. And, you know, Austin Aries had the Hulk Hogan approval. He let him cash that in. Option C, X Division Championship, because guys like him shouldn't quote-unquote be in the main event. They're not built for it. They're not the right size. They're not this. They're not that. No, Austin Aries made himself, and he's a star. And if you ever go to a show and you have the ability to see Austin Aries, then you should fucking take it. Because Austin Aries is a wrestler. And Austin Aries is a former world champion. And Austin Aries was treated like a champion and treated like a big deal in TNA, which is a lot more than I can say for one Daniel Bryan and how the WWE just likes to shit on him, but you guys will sit there and watch it and pull up your straps week after week and just be like, well, it's building to something. It's building to something. You got your tag team champions, the Bromans, in this match. Or, actually until a few days ago, not the tag team champions, the Bromans, because at a house show event, the tag titles did change hands. I wasn't at that house show. It was out in the middle of nowhere. But your new TNA tag team champions are the Wolves, Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards, and that's really good for business. And you know what else is good about that? Is that the Bromans are two young guys, and they're going to be in the main event. And two young guys in the main event match is, you know, a lot more than I can say for another company that's running a WrestleMania 30. Team MVP obviously has MVP on it. He's the captain. I've talked about his accolades. Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards. If you've never seen Ring of Honor and you've lived under a rock your entire life and you missed the point where Triple H didn't want to give these guys a contract because they weren't WWE material, they're one of the best tag teams in the world. Period. Hands down. And they're phenomenal athletes. They also come with their own fan base. They also have toured the independent scene. They also have made a name for themselves without being WWE rejects, which is kind of what you guys shit on TNA for. All the time. It's just being WWE rejects. Well, I don't see those two hitting that caliber, hitting that fucking target right there when you want to shit on it, so yeah. Yeah, I want to see this match because those two are in it. And I know right straight away there that you're talking a very, very solid, you know, lineup worth of workers so far. Oh, and the icing on the cake is that Jeff Hardy is also in this match. Maybe that's a spoiler to some of you guys, but seeing as, you know, fucking... When's Lockdown? Sunday, March 9th. I'm recording this thing on the 26th of February, so if you didn't know that that was coming, then obviously you haven't been watching the product, or you're not going to watch it anyway, in which case I didn't spoil anything for you. But I don't really like Jeff Hardy. I don't really think that him being given the championship after what he did at Victory Road was such a great thing. But there's no denying that Jeff Hardy is a big draw, and that Jeff Hardy got screwed by Dixie Carter when Magnus became their champion. And this really is a nice way to bring a storyline full circle. And this is the kind of redemption storyline that we should talk about, where when you want to see the good guys win, why wouldn't you have him on that side of the match? Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing Bobby Roode win this match and having Dixie Carter control all of TNA, because, you know, I always root for the bad guys, but you know that's not going to happen, otherwise what was the point of bringing in MVP? But this Lethal Lockdown for the control of TNA feels like a big match to me. And as a wrestling fan, I can get excited about this, and it's got people in this match that I want to see. And of course, Robbie E. and Jesse Goddard are not the main draw of this match. But they have a spot in it. They were the tag team champions. They were on Team Dixie. They're also very good in the ring, whether you want to admit that or not. And they have a place in getting their ass beat. And they're only really there to get their ass beat. They're not there to play super comic relief for this match. They're there for one purpose, and that's to get their ass beat, and I don't know if necessarily one of them is going to eat the pin or not. It's probably going to end up being Bobby Roode, but they have a place there. And I'm sure that by being in that match, they're going to help the other guys have a target on which case to whip their ass and make themselves look even better. Let's talk about the TNA World Title match for a minute. You've got Magnus against Samoa Joe. You've got Magnus, who is a young, just great world champion for TNA. I don't know why these people say that Magnus can't talk on the microphone. He's fine. He does his job. He gets his point across. He might not have Hulk Hogan caliber charisma, but he's a young guy. He's cutting his teeth. He's doing it. He's getting out there. I've met the guy in person. He's a great dude. He's a big dude. He's deceptively big. He's like 6'5". Made me look like a shrimp. I'm 6'3". He is very over with the ladies, if you haven't noticed. Dixie Carter not being the only person in love with his baby blues and his chiseled physique. And here's Samoa Joe. Here's a story and a rivalry that's been brewing for, I don't know, 2 years plus. And Samoa Joe's a guy who they haven't really treated with all the respect in the world. And, you know, kind of fucked him up. But now they're bringing him back. They're bringing him back into the main event. They're allowing him to have his time and his place. And I fully believe that he's going to take this strap off of Magnus, and we're going to see a badass Samoa Joe run. And I think that Magnus has served his purpose. And I think that Samoa Joe will pick up where Magnus has left off. And I think that having a young guy like Magnus in this match, who is a workhorse, and having Joe be able to have this nice redemption type of angle to come in and just be able to beat ass, you know, give him a chance to really shine, to have those two go out there and kill each other, and have Joe come out the victor, make him tap, make him just eat it. That's going to be a great match. Those two work very well with each other. Those two have great chemistry with each other. Those two trust each other enough in the ring to pull something off that's beautiful. They can work off of each other. They know what they're doing. And this isn't something like, say, Orton and Batista, where, you know, either one of those guys is going to be gassed in the first minute and a half of the match. They're going to be able to put on a 20 or 30 minute classic. It might not be a Ric Flair or a Steamboat or, you know, a HBK type of fucking Iron Man thing, but it's still going to be a work of art. It's not going to be just some shit match. Pardon me. Hang on. Dying over here. I think it's the plague. Get a little drinksy poos. You got James Storm versus Gunner. Here's a story that they were really teasing that Storm and Gunner were on the same page again. You know, Gunner, who is they're really trying to push this guy and make him into something serious. And anybody that says that those vignettes about talking about his time in the military and talking about how bad he's wanted it, and seeing him, you know, and the members of his family talking about how hard he worked and about how he worked for free, you know, coming up in the independent wrestling scene, just going and doing it because he loved it, you know, getting paid not even enough to cover the gas for the way there and everything. How does that not make you want to root for him as an underdog, as a guy that really deserves it? Now, James Storm, I'm not sure if, you know, turning him heel for 2014 is really the best of ideas, considering he was probably the most over babyface in your company. But I get why they're doing it. And they want to give Gunner that shot. And they want to give Gunner that big up-and-coming pay-per-view victory and make him feel like a big deal. And if you're going to do that, then you're going to have to do it against James Storm, who had been his tag team partner, who he'd had friction with, who completes this storyline of jealousy and everything else, where, you know, Storm has been jealous since Gunner had that cash in, since he had that opportunity. And in screwing him, you get another big type, you know, blood feudy match out of this. And this is a good way for this to finally end. And it's promoting a young guy in Gunner. Something that all these fans nowadays want to say, come on, you gotta push the young guys. But then you look at TNA, who's trying to actually do that, and they just want to have diarrhea all over the product. And I don't understand where this incessant hate comes in, because it's not WWE, so fuck it. You know, I go back to this Monday Night Wars and, you know, all that attitude shit, back to the days of the territories where competition was a good thing, and, you know, one company wasn't entirely just light years ahead of everybody else. That was best for business back then. That's why there is a wrestling business now. But whatever, guys. Whatever. Steel cage match. You've got Kurt Angle. And I believe he's going to go into the TNA Hall of Fame here real soon, or already, you know, I mean, they tried to induct him the other year, but he said he wasn't ready. But Kurt Angle knows his place in TNA, and his place, you know, this time at TNA shouldn't be to be in the world title scene anymore. It should be to do exactly what he's doing in this match against a guy like Ethan Carter III. Now, you guys know him as Derek Bateman, and you're probably going to laugh and be like, he's an NXT reject, he never made it, blah, blah, blah. He never had a chance. But TNA has brought him in and immediately aligned him with Dixie Carter and has featured him in a role where they give a shit about him. And I went to the live show. I've seen him be able to just react. He's got great microphone skills, whether or not you believe it. And he's a guy that's going to be able to get shit done and be a big player for TNA. He's young enough. He's got quite a look that they want to go for. He carries himself like he could be a champion. And that's what this match is all about. You're grooming Ethan Carter III to be a future main event show-stealing type of guy. And this match right here could very well be the match of the night. If you've never seen Derek Bateman, Ethan Carter III, he is a workhorse. He reminds me of a guy like a Shelton Benjamin or a Charlie Haas, who always went out there and always gave it 100,000,000%, who, by the way, were also aligned with Kurt Angle back in the day when they were the greatest tag team in the world. Yes? No? You guys remember that? Alright. It's just funny to me how Angle, who is, you know, given this moniker of the cyborg and, you know, supposedly one of the best workers ever, and I'll never take that away from him. I totally believe the hype, but I think that, you know, he's obviously an older horse, and it's time for the younger, hungrier racehorse to come through here, and I think that Ethan Carter III is going to look very well. These are your bigger matches. This is what's been, you know, kind of in the works and announced. I don't know what the fuck they're doing with Abyss. I don't know if Eric Young has, you know, something to do. I don't know if the Bad Influence is going to be prominently featured on this card or not. I don't know what's going on with all that. But I do know that I'm excited for Lockdown. And it's got enough young guys getting enough push on this fucking show. And I think that it's going to deliver to its fans, to the TNA audience, what it needs to deliver. And I think that people are going to be, you know, dare I say, 300% happier with this than they would be with WrestleMania 30. I'm not saying this because I sit here and suck the dick and drink TNA Kool-Aid. I'm saying this because I'm a wrestling fan. And I can look at this product and I can look at this attempt to put on a show that doesn't say, fans, I fucking hate you. Now, here's a little bit of backstory for you. And if you know anything about me, you know that I haven't watched WWE. I haven't watched it religiously. I haven't hardly watched it at all. You know, I watched it with Stephanie a few times. We saw a few pay-per-views. I really wasn't interested. And the entire time we're watching it, you know, we're looking back and forth at each other going, that doesn't make sense. This is stupid. I don't like this. Whatever. And I said, well, I get why they're doing this, or, you know, maybe down the line this will play out somewhere, but the booking for WWE just makes me want to pull my non-existing hair out, maybe out of my nose or my lower back where it seems to have migrated. But WWE hasn't done anything for me as a wrestling fan to draw me back in. And that's a very big problem, because I'm in that age demographic now, being 30 years old, where I'm kind of the guy that you would want to get on this whole network thing and to buy all of your merchandise, and I'm not a kid. I can actually, you know, lend money to this cause and get t-shirts or whatever. And even with the kids, how the hell are you giving them anything to look forward to? All of your colorful type personalities, where are they getting built up right now, WWE? They're not. Let's look at the WrestleMania 30 card real quick here. Or at least some of the shit that everybody else on the internet seems to be. This article was posted last night, February the 25th, at Real Deeg McFly. This is called WrestleMania 30 match card and why it doesn't have to suck. With a headline like that, you're already assuming it's going to suck. But here's what they have to say. Bray Wyatt and John Cena. That's obviously a match that we're going to go see. And he's right. Nobody has an issue with this match. The idea is that, you know, the young up-and-comers have to go through Cena. I agree with that. And this could be a match very similar to the Kurt Angle and EC3 match. In fact, I think this is almost a gatekeeper kind of match. You know, it just rings that bell for me. Here's the difference between Angle and Cena, is that Angle can eat a clean loss. I don't think that they're going to do that with Cena at all. And I don't think that Bray Wyatt versus Cena is going to be any type of main event. I think it's going to end up in the undercard, and that's a shame. It's a shame because Cena is the WWE's boy, and you would imagine that if they were going to put him on the show and give him an opponent that's worth a shit, that they would give him a main event spot. And just truthfully, they're not going to go there. And they can't go there because they fucked themselves over building this card up the rest of the way, or not. Do you think that Triple H is going to bow out of a main event payday if he's on this show in place of Bray Wyatt? I don't think so. It should be a pretty good match, but you know, I heard that the Cesaro John Cena match was very well done. And I mean, with Cesaro, it's no fucking surprise to me. Bray Wyatt is a very talented young man. I believed that back before he ever debuted for that whole Nexus 2.124, whatever the hell it was, thing. You know, what they squashed in 10 seconds or less against the match with Cena. But that's neither here nor there at this point. But this isn't built up like a big fucking deal. This is just getting him on the show, Bray Wyatt. And honestly, at this point in time right now, I would think that you would want to resolve your little drama that you built up between the Shield and the Wyatt family. And I think they're pulling the trigger on this in a real half-ass way, because they should have built this up a lot better than they had. We're talking about Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. That was the big, huge comeback, I guess, from the other day, right? Like Brock Lesnar ran his mouth, or Heyman ran his mouth for Lesnar, and then Taker came out at the end of the show, and it's something that I guess had to happen, right? Because they didn't have anything else for Lesnar to do. It was kind of pointless for him to just wait around. They were waiting for his next payday at WrestleMania. Who else was Undertaker going to face? Nobody fucking knew. Some people were saying it was going to be Bryan. Some people were thinking it should be the Shield or the Wyatts or whatever. You knew it had to be a big-time opponent like Lesnar, else why have him back? Some people said it was going to be Batista. I don't know what the hell you guys expected. It wasn't going to be Cena ever, because they can't have Cena, you know, lose like that. So this isn't going to be very exciting, seeing as Brock Lesnar's style isn't going to mesh very well with Undertaker. This isn't going to be a 20-minute brawl, or even a 15-minute brawl. Taker isn't going to be able to do that kind of work style. Maybe Lesnar will just put his arm in that arm bar for 10 minutes at a time and rest holds and all the other shit. Sure, you might see a couple of big-time power moves, but it's about it. It's about all you're going to get. This is going to be a match for the toilet. And I hate saying that about Undertaker, because he's one of my favorites. But this shouldn't have been the way that went. And both of these two guys should have had different opponents going into this. You had half a year to build this up, and there hasn't been any talk of it on the program until just the other night. That's not the way to do it, guys. That's not the way to make WrestleMania 30 feel big. Just to, at the last minute, throw this together. This is Undertaker you're talking about. You should have fucking known this one well before now. You should have known this heading into the Rumble. Alright. Orton versus Batista. There's no reason for this. I know that you're probably going to end up screwing Orton out of this and turning him face in the process somehow. I don't know how the fans can even stomach that. Batista aligning himself with Triple H or not. There's a lot of different ways to go from here, but who cares? There shouldn't be any reason for this to main event the show. Neither one of these competitors is a huge draw. And I don't see how this would go over a match like Taker versus Lesnar. But of the three matches I just talked about, none of these feel like they're going to take a main event slot. This isn't Rock versus Cena or Rock versus Hogan type of thing, or an Undertaker versus HBK type of match. This is Orton and Batista. And I don't need to talk about how Batista came back and just was handed this on a silver platter again, but why? This isn't what the fans want at all. You know, compare this to the TNA match for the strap right now with Magnus versus Samoa Joe. Which one of these is the young guy? And which one of these is the hungry lion that's been just, having to bite and keep himself relevant to get another shot? Neither one. It doesn't parallel at all. Batista was supposed to have been this animal, this monster from back in the day, and from everything that I've read and everybody else that spoke in the different groups that I'm in, whatever, Batista looks like a joke. You can't sell pay-per-views on somebody looking like a joke. And we're not dumb enough to just buy into it. We're not young enough anymore. This is WrestleMania 30. Us as fans have been around for a while. Think about it. You've had 30 years to build fans, which means that we're not all going to be 6 years old. And even if we were 6 years old at the time of the Cena experiment in 2005, well, lo and behold, they're 16 now. And the person that wrote this article that said that why WrestleMania 30 doesn't have to suck. The line in the article is, now we've got a match that is destined to have a huge dump taken on it by 80,000 strong in the Superdome, and it's for the top prize in the industry. That is insulting to me as a wrestling fan. Why would you do that? Why would you put two guys in there that any real wrestling fan is just going to outright reject for your strap? You know, back when they were doing this cutesy shit with Punk and having him fight Jericho, at least it was two guys that deserved to be in that match, that could put on a fucking match. Of course you knew it wasn't going to be the main event. You had Rock and Cena that year. But Jesus, at least it felt like two guys that deserved to be in that spot, and two guys that you knew loved wrestling, and two guys that you just didn't want to barf when you were seeing go at it. What is Orton versus Batista going to do? What can it really be? It can't be a wrestling match. Because of the lack of talent out of the two performers in the ring to begin with, it's not going to be a wrestling-styled match. It's probably going to be some kind of lame-ass, let's do rest holds, let's try to delay as much as we can, let's try to create this false sense that this is a really big deal when it's not. They're probably going to try to manipulate the crowd somehow, and it's just going to be outright rejected. And I don't see how this can be a good thing. And it's for the WWE title, which they unified two different straps together at TLC. Orton and Cena. This was supposed to be like one of the greatest build-up things ever, right? I didn't watch it. I didn't care because I knew it was horse shit at the time. But can you smell it now? Can you smell the amount of bullshit that they're trying to serve you? Now we've got Batista mixed into that. You want to talk about washed up, has-been WWE guys, why bring Batista back and throw him in the main event? Isn't that like something they would do in TNA? Oh, you haters, I just fucking owned your face. Hey, let's talk about Daniel Bryan not even having a spot on the fucking card, even though he's the main draw, he's the most over guy in the company. Hang on, I'm gonna hydrate. This comes from the heart here, a little bit. I've always been a big Daniel Bryan fan. I have. I didn't like it when he was his world title Daniel Bryan and a bad guy, and he was winning matches over Mark Henry and the Big Show in real chicken shit fashion, and never wanted to show up and do business and be in a match. But hell of a performer. Hell of a guy. I wish they had the confidence in him, or at least would allow him to have a go. Because if you're going to get anything near what guys in the past had, that it factor, that overness, suck the crowd in type of Austin or Rock feel that they really have been craving, since Austin and Rock, because they haven't had a guy like that since Austin and Rock. He would have been the one to go with, but they won't. You think that Triple H versus Bryan is what these people want to see? No, they don't want to see Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. And no, Triple H doesn't need to be on this WrestleMania card. If you were going to have Punk versus Triple H like you were setting up to do before Punk took a fucking, shower, took his ball and went home kind of shit, yeah, maybe you could have gotten away with Punk versus Triple H. It's kind of a culmination match that already happened where Triple H went over Punk, and it would have been this time where Punk could have went over Triple H. Punk's already had, WrestleMania moments and shit and been the champion, and he didn't need it this year. I get it. But Daniel Bryan, he was hot. He wasn't even allowed in the Royal Rumble. He was so hot because they knew that people would have started throwing garbage in that ring if Daniel Bryan would have had to job out to Batista. Do I think somehow Bryan is going to get added to that title match? No. No, it would have happened already. Yeah, they've got about a month out to figure it out, but guys, it's the end of February. Like, where the hell is the rest of the WrestleMania card coming together? Where is any of this undercard stuff, you know? Am I supposed to believe that the women's title is going to make a fucking appearance and be worth anything? No. Am I supposed to think that there's going to be some epic tag team match that's going to happen? No. They don't even have a tag team division in WWE right now. Don't give me that Usos shit, because they're never going to pull the trigger with them. The New Age Outlaws are your fucking champions right now. Are you kidding me? It's a sad, sad fucking time to be a wrestling fan, because your flagship fucking promotion, your number one, is acting like they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're acting like how WCW used to act before they died. I can say that because I was around then, and I was a huge WCW fan as a kid. Fuck. I've been trying to find a company that would be a WCW replacement for years. Not necessarily as a competition thing, but as a style. You know, I know that TNA has tried to do that, to bring in all of the fucking disenfranchised fans. But, you know, I watch wrestling because I want to see wrestling. And I want to see storylines that make sense. I don't want my intelligence insulted. And I want to be able to root, and I want to be able to cheer, and I want to be able to feel like what I give a shit is part in the equation. Whether or not I'm supposed to hate a guy or like a guy, rather than just not care or outright reject it. WrestleMania 30 doesn't have any gigantic fucking milestone, oh my god, type of things. And Hogan coming back to host it, man, it doesn't do anything for me. It should. But there's no point for him to be there. They didn't want him to be there. They didn't actively seek him out to be there. Why is he there? You know? They're not doing any type of, you know, angle where he's supporting somebody or not supporting somebody. He's not in anybody's corner. What the hell is the point? Just because he was at the first WrestleMania? We've had our Hogan nostalgia things before. This is just like when The Rock hosted WrestleMania, at least it led to something. And at least he was going to be involved in a match down the road. This is... You think Hogan's going to go after the title again or something? You think Hogan's going to put his stamp of approval on somebody? No, it's not going to happen. He can't go over the WWE's, you know, machine, the whoever is in charge to do that. That's not how that company works. And frankly, I don't see how that company continues to work. Because they're slapping everybody who has watched that in the face consistently by giving you lame pay-per-view finishes, by giving you a title scene that would make anybody want to vomit. I don't know, guys. You can leave comments. You can do whatever you want to do. But this has been an audio dedicated to why TNA Lockdown is going to be a better show than WrestleMania 30. And my mind is pretty much made up. If you have a great counter-argument, go for it. But where are the young guys being featured on WrestleMania 30 in a big fucking way as compared to, you know, as compared to how TNA Lockdown is coming through? You tell me. Let me know. Again, I'm live from my mother's basement, you know. What right do I have to judge anybody else for what they like and don't like? Well, that's the thing, is I don't. You are all allowed to like whatever you like, and not like whatever you don't like. Which is, you know, the same as why I'm allowed to call out the WWE and this WrestleMania 30 product for looking atrocious and keeping me away from it like the plague. You guys have been great. This has been 45 minutes of fire-fueled rant, and now I'm going to go have diarrhea all over a product, but it's going to be toilet paper and not wrestling. So, until next time, drink your milk, say your prayers, take your vitamins, train real hard, what the fuck ever. Goodbye, guys.